In this video tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at using our EZMats Designer to create a designer mat. And this is a great looking effect and it's really easy to accomplish. And so what we're doing here is a double layered mat effect, and you'd use basically the same technique if you were wanting to do more than just 2 layers of mat. So you can be really creative in the different types of things that you can create. So unlike the standard create double mat function, which would create a uniform gap between the inner and outer mats, the technique that we're going to be using here is going to allow us to define a different margin at a different area. So what I've done here is I have a uniform margin across the left, right, and top, but you can see at the bottom I have more of the inner mat showing um, at the bottom. So it's a nice effect. And again, you would use the same basic technique if you were going to do like a 3 or even a 4 layer mat. So with that said, let's go ahead and show you how we created this effect. So the first thing, of course, we need to do is begin a new document, and I'm going to be doing a 20 by 16 at 300 resolution. So there is my file. And then the first thing I want to do is create a series of guidelines. So I'm going to click on the Guides tool here in EZMats Designer, and let's do a 1.5 inch and a 2 inch. You can see I get 2 series of guidelines. And what you'll notice is when we go to enter those guides, just add a comma between the two and we get 2 sets of guidelines. Really slick. And then the next thing I want to do is I'm just going to do it visually. I'm going to eyeball about where I want my image to actually be. So I have all this extra room down here between the inner and outer mats when it's all said and done. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab our custom shaped or our rectangle shape tool here in Photoshop and just drag out where I want my image to be. And then of course I'm going to come in here to Adobe Bridge, and this is where I would select my image. And when I hit Insert Photo, it will go ahead, and of course it tells me this is an image layer, but that's fine. We'll override it, and it'll go ahead and drop in my photo. And I'm just going to resize my photo just a little bit. And this is a picture of my beautiful fiance and our little baby boy that's due in December. Alright, so once we have that taken care of, then all we need to do is define the areas of our inner and outer mat. And the way we're going to do that is simply go back into our rectangle shape tool, and I'm going to make a selection. So what I want is a bevel around my image. So I've just created a new shape layer with my rectangle tool in Photoshop, the same exact dimension as my image layer was. And then all I'm going to do is simply click on the Create Single Mat button here in EZMats Designer. And it'll take a second here, but it'll generate that first layer of mat. Alright, so now we have that first layer. And if you want to, if it makes it easier for you, we can rename this, where we'll call this inner mat bevel, because that's really what this is now. Okay, so we just rename those to inner. Now, if I turn off my guidelines, I'm just going to use Control H, be Command H for you Mac folks. You can see what it'll actually do here. You can see that bevel has been created. Now, of course, we have this shape layer directly on top of our image layer, and technically we don't need it. So I'm just going to turn off the visibility of it. And now you can see we have a nice single layer bevel around our image, which is exactly what we were looking for. So let's turn back on our guidelines. And so the process would be the same for their next layer. So what I'm going to do here is drag out another shape, just like so. And then once I have that shape, then I can go ahead and choose that same Create Single Mat function again. That takes care of our outer mat layer. So again, we'll delete our shape because we no longer need it. And if I turn off my guidelines, you can see what we've created. Now it's going to be a little bit easier to see, even though we do have two distinct layers. It'll be easier to see once we've changed our colors. So what I did was I just came into my inner mat layer here, sampled a color from this pink, which was beautiful, and then did Shift Alt Backspace here on a PC, or it'd be Shift Option Delete on a Mac, and that's just going to fill in the gray pixels of that layer. And then I'm going to sample a color of the green pillow and do the exact same thing. Shift Option Delete or Shift Alt Backspace here on a PC. And there you have your double layer mat. And of course we could add some text or something here at the bottom, or we could just leave it like that just for an effect, and it really looks nice. And of course we could add a texture using the texturizer tool in Photoshop to create a beautiful texture on our two mat layers. So that is all there is to adding a double layer mat effect, but not having a uniform margin between the inner and outer mats, or if you want to add a third or a fourth mat layer, that's how you would go about doing it. So I hope that gives you some creative ideas and some of the things you can do with your layouts, and thanks for watching.